So I want to talk to you real quick, and this is going to be very brief, but it's just something about the dumbing down of America, and a lot of people talking about the things that people always speak about the youth, but this is something that's going on throughout the history of time, where people would talk about the youth and talk about how they actually have it, but it's not even about the youth. It's just about the age that we live in, and we were actually in an age where information was readily available. Whereas if you wanted to search something online, if you wanted to learn how to do something on your own, there was no excuse. Like, even now though, gone are the days of the excuse that, oh, well, we weren't taught this in school, or they never wanted us to learn this other BS. Like, the fact of the matter remains is that you can learn it if you search to learn it. Now, even in times when it was hard, you were able to learn about it. All you had to do is just know how to read. But see, now where you could find, or previously we could find like simple information. You go on the internet, you go on to Google, or you go on to Bing, or whatever it is that you use, and you go into these things and you search how much was $1 billion today worth back in 1980, something along those lines. And it just takes you on a incredibly long list and doesn't even answer the question that you answered. Now, I don't think that there's some conspiracy with this. I don't believe that. I mean, I've talked to people who are involved with it, and it actually has a lot to do with search engine optimization. Whereas, people are just trying to get clicks. They're trying to get you to click on, their website. And, in that aspect, it's going to be harder to find valuable information, especially information that you find useful. You're going to be directed towards a lot of false information or even misleading information. And it's a shame for all of the people who are lazy or complacent in their lack of knowledge, because that's the only thing that, God's people are going to be destroyed from, is the lack of knowledge. It has nothing to do with the complexion of your skin. But what it comes down to is it's your lack of knowledge, and the fact that you can't even gain knowledge anymore to the level that you used to. But I would suggest to you, in this day and age, while you still can, physically go to a library. Learn how to use a library. In your spare time, yes. Especially if you're young, yes. Because the information that they have on Google, the information that they have on Bing, the information on Bard, the information on ChatGTP, it's all wishy-washy. You can't trust any of it. And I've talked about this several times in my book. That was the whole purpose of it, just to bring to light. Even in the heyday when Google was just coming out, when Google was first coming out, it left to question a lot of people's minds, because a lot of information at that time, even in books, wasn't all the way accurate. And there were certain books that were banned, or certain books that you weren't allowed to check out in the library. And then you got to ask yourself, what is inside of this book that they don't want me to know? And if you're a poor person, you really need to be asking you that question. Notice I said poor person. I didn't say black person, because you don't have to be, just because you're black doesn't make you poor. And so when you look at the fact that, yeah, you can search something on the website and on Google and find some information, you got to really ask yourself, how accurate is this information that I'm getting? Because you'll get variations of the same information. Sometimes you'll get something that's pretty accurate, but I would say before they fully dumb down the internet, because the internet is a problem for individuals who want to keep information and knowledge and wisdom and money out of the hands of poor people. It's a serious problem for them. So take advantage of it as best as you can, but don't neglect going to the library. Get up out of your bed, off your couch, and physically go to a local library. Go to the largest one in your city, where you can find the largest amount of information, and gain as much knowledge and information as you can gain. I can promise you on this. I'll even tell you to go as far as this. As a man running a household, or as a woman running a household, gather your children together and say, this is what we're going to do today. I don't care if they want to do it or not. Either you want your kids to be successful or you want them to fail. Like, gather them, and this is what we're doing. If they mess up in school, this is what we're doing. If they do great in school, this is what we're doing. It's not a punishment. It's not a punishment to educate your kids. Real quick story. When I was younger growing up in the Northeast in Philadelphia, a lot of times if it was severe snow or severe weather like that, we would have off of school. You'd be checking down at the bottom of the TV in hopes that, your school will be the one that's called. And and when you see the school name, ooh, you got excited. And, you didn't want to, you were happy that you were off of school that day. Well, a couple of people I grew up with, even when they were off of school, it didn't matter because they had the type of father that was like, you know what? You're out of school, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to learn. So you're going to have to read the dictionary, or you're going to have to write a report on this, or do a science project, or whatever. It didn't matter. He was a great man for this because he these people as adults are great people. There's no denying it. I'm talking about great successful people. Now, if I want my child to be successful, I'm going to do that. My parents didn't do that with me. I'm still successful, but my parents did not do that with me. What am I saying to all of you? Like, put studies onto your children. Like, force them to put them in a position where they can educate you on how something works. Listen, if I have, like, let's say 4 kids, I would make them go to the library. I would have one learn taxes. I would have one learn finance. I would have one learn science, and I would have one learn history. And that's just vague, but like, that's how I would do it. And then maybe like force them all to do that and be able to write about what they learned, like a book report, like these reports that you do on books that you read to show how good you actually read the report, and then read the report. Because even as a parent, like, even if you don't understand any of these subjects, your child, for one, can wow you and like, wow, my child knows this, and it can actually encourage you to learn more. But even more so, right? Even more so, right? You can read the work that your child did and be like, wow, this is good, and grade them. Like, why are you leaving it up to schools to teach your children? The schools don't even know what gender your child is, or is trying to confuse your child on that. Let's talk about it. None of these things are important. The 4 subjects that I gave you are subjects that are very, very helpful throughout life. And then if you want to get real creative, and do this while they're very young too, but if you want to get real creative with your kids, like, have them switch subjects. Find the one that's the strongest in one subject and switch them to whatever their subject is the weakest in. Like, rotate them. Like, have these things as their normal way of conversation. Because these are the things that's going to create true generational wealth, not creating a business and passing down money to ungrateful kids, or even passing down money to grateful kids. That doesn't do it. When you go to the library, don't just be like, all right, go ahead and read. No, you get a book and you start reading. Even if you don't tell your kids to read, right? They'll go, Mom, or they'll go, Dad, what are you doing? What are you reading? I'm reading about this, son. I'm reading about this, daughter. Here, you read this, and give them another, something else to read. And you don't even have to even tell them you have to read it or you have to behave or anything like that. Kids model what they see. So if they see you quiet, focused, and reading, this is what they're going to model. Like, y'all don't understand. Like, y'all always talk about look it up on the internet, and they find a whole bunch of porn or whatnot. And then your little daughter is 8 years old wanting to twerk, and you act like everybody treats you like you've done something wrong when you're just trying to tell your daughter to do her schoolwork online. I can guarantee you 100%. And some people are going to hate me for this, but I can promise you on everything that the information that they're teaching your kids at school is less important than the subjects that I just told you. Throw in engineering while you're at it. Like, I'm creating the whole, book list. If you go to the playlist and you see the list of books that we got to see. And I'm just saying, like, These are just personally 12 books that changed my life that I feel like can change anybody's life. And I'm suggesting, hey, you know what? Read this book. And it's more to it. It's more than just the 12. But these are just 12 that I picked that I feel like is really, really good. But also get into the self-help books. Get into the Think and Grow Rich. Get into the Machiavelli books. Like, have your children read books about things that go on, whether or not they understand it or not. Especially if they're really young, even if they're babies. I don't care if they're 3 years old. Like, have them visually see you reading a book. Even if you check books out of the library and you go home, but I still recommend doing it in the library. I'd recommend doing it inside of the library. Listen, Warren Buffett, right, is about 99 years old, somewhere around there. He has over $1 billion for every year that he's been alive. It's impossible for him to spend all of his money at this point in his life. And he grew up in a library. Like, some of y'all got to look at things practical. And some things take a little bit longer. Do you plant a garden and expect it to grow overnight? I get it. Everybody wants the quick solution. But sometimes what we got to do is we got to take a little bit longer of a route and plant the seed, or first pull up the weeds, which the weeds are the negative things that they're seeing online, the social media that my kids are seeing, the twerking that my kids are seeing, the confusion about whether they're a boy or a girl that my kids are seeing, the even sex in general that my children are seeing that they shouldn't be seeing, or just getting in adult conversations. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if you, right? And this is for the young parents out there. I'm talking about, let's say young parents. I'm talking about late teens to early 20s, right? Or late teens to mid 20s, right? Can you imagine if you and all of your circle only talked about educational stuff around your children? What do you think is the results of what your children would be doing when they got older? If you 16, 17 to 18 years old with a child, just for your own livelihood, when you get in your older years, these things is what you need to be doing with your child. I don't care about any other negativity, because if it's so much negativity in these children's lives, you need to engulf them. Like, you have a duty to engulf them in some sort of positivity. People always want to say that I'm too positive, but these are the solutions instead of just talking about the problems. See, the problems when it comes to, with a lot of poor communities, not black communities, but poor communities, is that they want to talk about what the problems are. Oh, well, see, people don't want to come together, or people don't want to work with them, or you can't trust this person. Instead of saying, well, wait a minute now, instead of just talking about the problem, why don't we just talk about the solution? But let's not just talk about the solution. All right. Like, why don't we just solution? We know what the problem is. We know what we have to do. Instead of talking about what we have to do, let's just do it. Knowledge is great, but without action equals zero. So an equation is K minus A equals 0. It's not going to get you anywhere in life. And I can promise you on everything, it's not going to propel you in life. So understand this. Do not allow society, your schools that your children are in, or any of these things to dumb down your child, to like, or even to dumb down yourself. Do not rely on schools to teach your children. They will not be like, you will not have. I don't care if your child goes to Harvard. It doesn't matter. Like, be responsible for what your child learns. You need to listen, especially if you're in the hood, right? And it's not just black people, because there are white people in the hood, there are Chinese people in the hood, there are Spanish people in the hood. But if you grow up in the hood anywhere, right, you need to be able to prepare your child for life by the time that they're 13 years old, to be able to live on their own if they have to, because of the dangers that are around you. They need to have that knowledge. They need to know how to cook. They need to know how to clean. They need to know how to, like, somewhat be innovative. And you do these things by putting these things in their life. When I was younger, right? When I was a kid, I didn't really read stuff. But one thing I was inspired by was the people who were around me, right? This inspires all children, right? So when I looked at the adults that were around me, now mind you, it was an age gap is between me and my father, but even on my mom's side, like her uncles, which was my great uncles, which her uncles were in like World War II and everything like that. But these men were chefs, and they showed my mom how to cook, and my grandma knew how to cook. And then what did I do? Knowing this information about who I am, I started reading cookbooks, just reading them. Because I knew I wasn't allowed at the time to be at the stove, but I can at least read the ingredients and see how they go in there. And nobody can deny me for being a good cook right now. I'm not a bona fide chef, but it's just in our family. My cousin's a bona fide chef. She's a chef. You know, like people in my family, my brother's a baker. Like, are you kidding me? Like it's all about the people we're surrounding our children with that are influencing, who we become. And so we got to be careful of these so-called quote unquote people who label themselves as influencers. Half the things that they talk about, I do not want them influencing my children on at all by any means. At least I'm telling you to force your kids by punishment, or force your kids through afternoon recreation, or force your kids as a vacation to go to a library. Learn how to be quiet, learn when to be quiet. Even if they fall asleep, it doesn't matter. They need to know that this is where they're going. Like you can't force knowledge onto anybody, but when they see you take any action yourself, they'll in turn do it. So that's all I wanted to talk to you about. Do not allow ChatGTP or Bard or Google or Bing or any of these things to dumb down your children, or to dumb down yourself, or to make you have lazy thinking. So comment, like, subscribe. If you dislike, make sure you write dislike in the comments and subscribe. If you have any other questions, concerns, funny stories, anything you'd like to add, feel free to put them in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone.